What's up, everybody? So let's talk about Palantir, this AI that takes huge data sets and integrates them and provides insights, named after the Palantir stone or the stones from Lord of the Rings. Very nerdy people are involved here when they name their magnum opus after something from Lord of the Rings. First of all, I want to talk about the lack of media coverage that we saw whilst this AI was being infused with these government agencies. There was very little coverage about this. Essentially, while Elon was going around with Doge, he was also bringing along these passengers from Palantir, these people who work at the company. And now these people are working as consultants for these government agencies. There's at least one in every agency now being paid as consultants, as contractors. And this was such a quiet rollout. I don't remember ever hearing about this. We heard all about the cuts, we heard about all the controversy and everything like that, but in all of that, I don't ever remember hearing about Palantir being pushed into these agencies. And I know the argument now is, well, it makes them more efficient. But that's not what I voted for when I voted for Trump. I didn't vote for let's push this technology in here that's going to essentially amplify the usefulness of the information that the government collects on us, which is everything. I voted for intelligent policy changes that made a meaningful difference. Let's talk about where this is being installed. So far, we know it's the DoD, the DHS, the IRS, ICE, and possibly the NSA. And think about that one, right? The frickin' NSA. They already have everything. I suspect that this is also being incorporated into social media because Elon was the one putting it. He was the one pushing it into these government organizations. He was the one bringing along these employees. So that means X, and I would suspect that Zuckerberg, being as afraid of Trump as he is, probably has incorporated it into Facebook and Meta. Google may have given in to this demand as well. I'm sure these demands are being made, right? We didn't know about the FBI's involvement with Facebook early on. That came out much, much later. What's the chance that Trump essentially has one of these agencies, like the DoD, going to these social media companies and saying, hey, we want you to do this? And then we're going to find out about it much later on. So that means that this AI system is tied into just about every single thing that you use in your life that gives data back to some entity, whether it's government or corporate. It's there and it's analyzing your data at a personal level, making insights about it, and then serving those insights on a silver platter. So let's get into that too. That's what it does. Essentially, is it integrates large sets of information. It pulls out the useful pieces predictively in a predictive manner, which means like it relates them in a way that you can start painting a picture. It paints a picture and then it serves it up on a silver platter. And if you think about this from a logistical standpoint, historically, the government could not do what this system does, which is why the DoD has already been using Palantir for a while, because it's been providing insights on the battlefield, right? It's been used to unalive people, essentially, by giving the people in charge, the people relevant to the situation, all the information they need to get rid of those people. And now it's coming here. They call it, in fact, the kill chain is what they call it. So that sounds pleasant, right? But let's stay away from like emotional appeals, right? And charged language. Because if you're not a fan of this thing by now, you don't need any of that. This thing is frickin' scary, man, and I'm going to get into more about why that is. So let's just briefly recap the facts so far. There was no media coverage, despite it being, from both angles, left and right, a good thing to cover, especially the left, right? There's so many criticisms here that I didn't hear from them early on. It was put into lots of agencies, primarily the ones with lots of information on us, which is interesting to me now that I look at this and I say, why did Elon leave, right? Well, maybe this is the goal that he really wanted to accomplish, and it's really, he doesn't care anymore. It amplifies surveillance data by integrating it together after going through all of it, finding the needles in the haystack, and putting them all together into something useful. It accomplishes the logistically impossible, where people would have to go through all this data themselves and then communicate with all these different agencies to get it, and then formulate some kind of argument about the person. And another fact is that AI isn't always right. So it could be providing bad insights into people's lives. It could be providing incomplete or incorrect profiles on people. It could be calculating people wrong, but saying things about them. Now let's go into some of the implications of this. Obviously, this is an AI system. I'm not exactly sure how you interface with it, but I imagine you can interface with it a lot like GPT, which means you can ask it questions. And that's what I'm wondering, is what kind of questions are going to be asked? When the people in power want to know something in particular, what are they going to be asking about? Are they going to be asking about who has a certain opinion? Are they going to be asking about when and where someone usually will be at a certain time? Are they going to be asking about what kind of influence and power and ability to resist some kind of campaign against them is? I mean, these are the insights that you're going to get from this thing. The other thing is that this implies that you will no longer be able to rely on obscurity anymore. You will no longer be able to be that needle in a haystack. This thing is like a giant magnet that will pull all the needles out, no matter how tiny or obscure they may be. They're going to see you. I could only imagine that it's going to make like basically a Tinder profile for you, for somebody in the government, and they can swipe left or swipe right, potentially on whatever it is that they're worried about with you. Years from now, I could see this thing being used to silence dissent. There's a whole ton of ways that you can do that now, as we're increasingly reliant on all kinds of digital, things like social media, smartphones, self-driving cars, access to information even. One thing that it could do is something called algorithmic blacklisting. So this is where, let's say you're a business owner and suddenly you just start getting less traffic to the profile of your business on Instagram, for example. Let's say that you're on Facebook and suddenly a whole bunch of people that don't exist and profiles that don't have people behind them start slandering you. And it's just impossible for you to get ahead of it and tell everybody, hey, this is not true. None of this is happening. Because that's another thing they can do with AI, is they can just use that to absolutely flood your life with all kinds of claims that are hard to distinguish from real claims. So this is a lot of interesting stuff to think about for me personally. And this is, again, one point out of now a handful of points that I have against Trump. I voted for him. I don't think the other option was any better. I was convinced prior to Trump that it didn't matter who you voted for. And over 8 years, I've come full circle now. In the first 6 months of his second term, it just appears like he is doing a lot of weird deep state stuff. And you combine this, and I'll have other videos about these topics, but you combine this with the insane spending on the military and the Epstein stuff. I truly believe he is committed to the goals of what you might call the deep state. It just doesn't really seem to make sense any other way. And it's very unfortunate, because I think a lot of us felt like we had somebody that finally was what you would call a populist president who was looking out for the people. But I'm starting to see some stuff here, guys, and it's very concerning. I'm really not liking this. This is not what I voted for. Again, I voted for intelligent policy changes. I did not vote for having an AI program developed by a private institution, a corporation, rammed into the ass of the government, infesting it, looking at all of our data, creating this massive fire hose of your information, providing insights otherwise logistically impossible to obtain, removing your obscurity. No, I didn't vote for any of that shit. That is not what I wanted. And that is not at all what I thought was going to happen. But yes, call me a fool, call me what you will. I did fall for it. I felt like I had some solid reasons for voting for him. And again, I don't think we'd be in a different situation. I think we're in the situation where it doesn't matter who you vote for. We're not in the situation you voted for Trump and now everything's going to hell. It's going to hell either way. It's just that he is just a different flavor, essentially, of the march of tyranny. me. Whereas if you would want to say Biden-Harris is like a slow poison, Trump is just like a warrior who flat out rushes your ass and beheads you. So that's where I'm going to leave it for now. This is disgusting. Palantir it does not belong in the government. It doesn't belong anywhere near the government. The DoD use case, if isolated and compartmentalized to strictly that, even then is kind of, there's an ethical discussion, I think, there to be had. But now that it's in everything else pertaining to U.S. people, like U.S. civilians, no, absolutely not. This is horrible. Guys, this is absolutely horrible. I'm telling you. This is not going to be good going into the future. We are going to suffer from this. Even if you like Trump, one day Trump's not going to be there anymore. Even if you're loyal to him and think he is a good person, even if he is a good person and he's doing this for virtuous reasons, one day someone is going to be in that government. Someone's going to be in his chair that is not a good person. And do you think between now and then we're going to have this removed? I don't think we can remove this at this point. I think it's there for good. So anyway, that's that. I'll see you guys later.